Hey everyone, Tony D and Little Joan here with your late night, let's call it your election update. Little tidbits of information here. There's a lot going on, but there's not a lot going on. The big news, of course, is Trump had his rally, and so I have to look at some of that. But I think you pretty much know how that goes. The one thing I heard from my friend who watched a lot of it was that Trump pushed Purdue over the other guy, which seemed to make sense because the other Republican senator came out pretty forcefully against Trump. I don't know why. I don't know why you would. At this point, do you think a Biden administration is going to give you the time of day guy? No. No, the Biden administration's not going to give you the time of day, especially if you don't win. Have you seen the ratings for Fox News recently? You're in trouble, buddy. You're in trouble. You might as well become a Democrat. You really ought to just switch parties. And I say that not as a partisan, but as someone who, I mean, it's logical at this point. It's logical. You might as well become a Democrat. The lines are being drawn here. If you're not with Trump, you're not with the Republicans. It's as simple as that. Trump has at least, I would say, a 75 million supporters, pretty loyal supporters. That's a huge chunk of change in this country. Yeah, Biden supposedly has more, but they are even if you say yes, he has 80 million voters, and I don't believe he does. I believe he cheated. I believe Trump has more, he has less. Probably the opposite. It's probably more like Trump 80 million and he has 75 million, but let's say for a moment you're true. 30% of Democrats believe that the election was stolen. Buyer's remorse for Biden is already coming out because no one knew about the Hunter Biden stuff. A lot of people didn't, unless you were following it like I was. There are just people who are just looking at Biden and go, wait a minute, this was a dumb idea. And you know, if you got about 20% of the party, they're radical left. They only voted for Biden because they think he'll be easier to overthrow. So they don't really like Biden either. So you've got an incredibly unpopular candidate. What do you think's going to happen? Do you think people are going to rally behind Biden in a fight, or not fight, not like a military fight, but in a battle of ideas or popularity for the presidency? No, people aren't going to bother to rally. Biden couldn't generate 100 people in a room. He's fallen to pieces. Kamala is a black hole for charisma. So what do you expect to have happen here? If Trump can get this momentum and keep going with it and get these weak-willed, namby-pamby rhinos to vote in his favor when the time comes, that's it. He's president again. SCOTUS won't even be required. And I think that's what he's going for. They are serious about this, and Trump's not messing around. I do not think Trump is messing around. I mean, I had my doubts back and forth a little bit over the last few days, but you know, I think Trump's pulling out of this. It's getting a lot nastier than I expected. I really expected the Democrats at some point to just, you know, acknowledge. I didn't think they would go this far. I really didn't. I mean, the stealing of votes in this is it's just disgusting. And you have Democrats and rhinos coming out, and they're just putting everything on the line for Joe Biden. I couldn't tell you why. I don't know what pictures they have of these people doing what, that they're willing to fall on a sword for Joe Biden. Joe Biden, the mummy candidate. I just don't get it. But maybe I'm just too logical a person. I look at Joe Biden and I just go, no. If I was a Democrat, I'd be like, we can't put up Biden. If you're putting up Biden, I'm out. I'm not supporting this. Which is why I would be terrible in politics. I would be, I'm that guy. I'm the guy in the meeting and goes, wait a minute. No, I'm not going along with this. I'm the 12th guy in the jury that goes, no. Yeah, I am. I don't know. Maybe I'm a contrarian. Maybe that's why I'm libertarian. But let's get into some of these articles connected to the election, let's say. This is from Glenn Greenwald, and if you haven't read Glenn Greenwald, you really should. He is currently on Substack. He used to write for The Intercept, and before that, Slate. And he is a liberal. He is very much, but he's like a good liberal. He's very honest, very forthright, and a great journalist. One of the last ones left. It's like him and Matt Taibbi. They're both on Substack. I recommend you read them. I recommend you support them. And I'm not going to go through the whole article, but Glenn Greenwald, after the deep state sabotaged his presidential bid, Bernie Sanders mocks those who believe it exists. After also ridiculing rigged election and fake news, two other weapons used on him, the Vermont senator's relationship to the Democratic Party descends from loyal support to abject subservience. Yeah. I mean, this is why so many Bernie bros, I think, are just lost. You know, they've either gone totally dark and gone full-blown communism and joined Antifa, or they've just, I imagine a lot of them are just disgusted with politics, and they feel so betrayed they just got out. And a few of them even went to Trump, because at least Trump, you know, even if you don't agree with all his policies, you know where you stand with Trump. You know what's going to happen, and quite frankly, he is a populist candidate. You know, he agreed with Trump on certain things, but Bernie, he took his money and went home. And for that, he continues to, you know, kiss the feet of Joe Biden and the DNC. I mean, it's kind of sad. You know, I had not all that much respect for Bernie Sanders because of his wacky beliefs, but Jesus, has it been a grift for your entire life? I mean, are you really going to leave this world this pathetic? I mean, you might as well just retire with your money and just go home. You know, if the money meant that much to you, just leave with it. How much more time do you have left, Bernie? Just go live your life and enjoy the money that you coveted so much. Why are you even still in Congress? Is it even like fun anymore when you're doing it this way? When you're going, Joe Biden, oh, your butt tastes so good. I've never seen anything like this. But, you know, you see the true character of people when the extremes happen, I guess. You know. At what would be the peak of Bernie Sanders' 2020 presidential campaign, the U.S. intelligence community, using anonymous leaks to the Washington Post, dropped a devastating bomb on the Vermont senator. U.S. officials have told Senator Bernie Sanders that Russia is attempting to help his presidential campaign as part of an effort to interfere with the Democratic contest, the paper announced, citing people familiar with the matter, whom the paper allowed to speak on the condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive intelligence. At the time of this perfectly timed leak, Sanders was on a major roll. He had effectively tied Pete Buttigieg for first place in the scandal-plagued Iowa caucus, in which an app developed by and sold by Democratic Party operatives made it impossible to reliably count the votes, and then won the first primary in New Hampshire. Joe Biden finished 4th and 5th, respectively, declared all but dead by the punditocracy and Democratic donors. And yet, you know, the deep state took him out, which really is the Democratic Party. And as I've said before, I believe the deep state operatives, and when you say deep state, look, you're not talking about a cabal of that's got a, you know, you're not talking about Spectre from James Bond. What you're talking about is Democrats who have aligned themselves with, you know, people in Washington who never leave their jobs because they have the kind of jobs that they just stay in there forever, and some of the people, if not a lot, in the intelligence community. And they have combined to create this network. And, you know, there used to be an old boys network. That was mostly Republican based, but it was based mostly on who you went to school with, who your family knew, money, that kind of thing. You know, and that wasn't good either. But this is different. This is a different kind of network. This is a network that's built upon, you know, more ruthlessness, you know. At least the other one had some family involved. And you can kind of forgive, you know, a guy trying to get his son a job or things like that. This is more like, you know, just a ruthlessness. And I think a lot of it's driven by the Clintons. I really do. They really changed politics on the Democratic side when they entered it. And people don't remember. If you're not old enough to remember the Clintons. And look, I voted for Bill Clinton twice. I thought he was a good president at the time. And in some respects, he was. He was popular. He was fun. But I guess it was really his wife. I mean, I guess it was really Hillary that brought the meanness to it, that brought out that meanness. And they changed the Democratic Party. They started kowtowing to the big money people, as opposed to the unions, as opposed to the working class. They started with Bill Clinton, but it really ended with Hillary. Hillary really broke off what was left. And I've said this before. When Hillary was running, Bill told her she should go to this Catholic dinner. It was important. Democrats always go to it. It's something JFK went to, and all the big Democrats, because unions are important. And Hillary's response, and this was in the WikiLeaks emails, was, that's not our base anymore. And that's when Hillary pulled them away from the working class. Now, Bernie tried to pull them back, and to some extent he was successful. But Bernie's economic policy was so wacky. Socialism just isn't going to work, And look, I was critical of Trump's economic policies. I didn't think he would be good at that at all, but it turns out he's a whiz. I mean, there's just no way to explain it. He is good at it. He is good at making money. I mean, I always kind of knew he was, but man, he knows how to run the country. What can I say? He knows how to run the money. He's making deals, and he did. Bernie doesn't know how to make deals. Sorry, he knows how to spend money, but so do every Democrat, and especially the Democratic Socialists. So I don't know what these people are thinking, but this is a good article. I haven't read through the whole thing yet, but if you want to read just how sad Bernie Sanders is as a human being, and he's just helping Biden as much as he can, bringing the Bernie bros as much as possible. I think you have to be brain dead to follow Bernie at this point. But some bad news: Georgia buries Sidney Powell's factually baseless and unprecedented election lawsuit. Sidney's being buried under legalese and legal, I don't know what you'd call it, I guess, whatever they filings. So it's not good for Sidney, not good in general. But hey, she's a really good lawyer, seems to me. Unfortunately, it's a timing thing. This was really rushed. When it comes to the law, if these guys had a year, it'd be a different story. So the Democrats are finally kind of standing up and say, oh, okay, well, we can delay this. So I guess that's their plan. Fortunately, I think Trump has a different plan. I don't think he was relying on these lawsuits, but it sucks. It sucks. I don't know if Sydney's going to be able to dig herself out from under this in a few weeks, but we'll see. I mean, she did eventually free Michael Flynn, so I think eventually a lot of these people in Georgia are going to jail. And again, Democrats are finally stepping up. Democrats represented by Mark Elias challenge results in 2 close House races. So don't count your House members before they're seated. I've been surprised at the lack of response from Democrats, but they're finally starting to wake up and realize they might lose this thing and have lost a lot of seats. So finally they're spending some money. Here's President Trump at the Georgia rally. I worked harder in the last 3 weeks than I've worked in my life. That's saying something. That is saying something. Because I'll tell you, I've never seen a guy work this hard. As much as, even when he's on the golf course, he looks like he's working. And he strikes me as a guy who will be taking like 10 phone calls while he's golfing in between holes. So it's kind of funny. I thought we were going to easily win, and that maybe for the first time in a long time, I'd go on a nice little vacation for about 2 days, and then we'd go back. The president explained during a campaign rally for Kelly Loeffler. and David Perdue. Instead, I probably worked hard in the last 3 weeks than I worked in my life doing this, he continued. Trump also asserted that that he was winning the presidential election, telling the crowd, "We're fighting very hard for this state." So good. "I will easily and quickly win Georgia if Governor Brian Kemp or the Secretary of State permit a simple signature verification." That seems to be happening. You know, it seems to be happening. I don't know if it'll actually happen. I really do think, though, they need to have Sydney, look at the forensic data on those voting machines. But who knows if they'll let her do it. I mean, they're erasing the machines as fast as possible. So, from the Washington Examiner, a new claim: Constitution does not require hasty electoral college vote. Check fraud first. This is something Tim Pool has talked about. It reads, states rushing to brush aside President Trump's legal challenges to begin picking electors by Monday are being advised to slow down in a new advisory that says the only date in the Constitution mentions is January 20th, Inauguration Day. Citing language in the famous Bush v. Gore Supreme Court decision, the advisory said that while federal law sets 2 days in December for moving forward with the Electoral College voting, the Constitution doesn't. Supreme Court has ruled that the law does not actually require states to appoint electors by that date in order for those electoral votes to be counted by Congress when determining the winner of the presidential election, said a new white paper from the Amistad Project of the nonpartisan Thomas More Society, which is challenging the votes in several states. So good. Hopefully some of these states slow down, and that could only help Trump. But I think it's sounding to me like it's going to come down to getting it in Congress, and then they're going to count the votes, and then people are going to object, and it's going to be no way. We're going to come down to some sort of contingent election, or they're just not going to give it to Biden. I don't think so. I think there's too much going on here. Is it going to be a military coup? No. It might be a legal coup in that, again, this would all be legal. It just would be very unusual. Trump wins court ruling allowing money to be shifted for wall, as if anybody remembers the battle for the wall. Trump can redirect $3.6 billion in U.S. military funds to build a wall along the Mexican border, and Texas group that challenged the decision have no legal right to complain, a federal appeals court said. So good, I guess. I wasn't a big fan of the wall. I think it's kind of a simplistic answer to a more complex problem. But I understand it. I get it. It does help. I think ultimately, if we addressed the benefits that people got, I think if Trump eliminated natural birthright citizenship, that would go a long way to keeping people from just coming here and having kids or trying to exploit the system, from out of the country. I think we do need a more streamlined pathway to citizenship. I get it that we do need secure borders. The wall, I reluctantly kind of go along with the wall. I think it's probably because things are so effed up in our country in terms of the politics, in terms of Congress. Like, I can be okay with the wall. I don't see it as being, some people say, "Oh, the wall is racist." Look, the wall isn't racist. That's the last thing it is. It's an inanimate object. It's not racist to build a border wall in your country. It's whether or not it's going to be effective. I think it'll be effective for a while. I don't know if we'll get back to $3.6 billion we spent on it, but and there's still going to be plenty of places to cross the border, but it'll help. I think it'll help border towns. So, if Trump is pushing for it, and he took the money from the Pentagon, which I think is a huge plus, because I would rather have that Pentagon money spent here on something that does some good for the United States rather than on bombs and guns, being deployed in other countries. Multiple brawls break out between Trump supporters and Antifa in Olympia. Militant leftist puts out desperate call for backup on Twitter. keep in mind this is the Gateway Pundit, so they are probably cheering for this. And look, I don't like Antifa, but I cannot, um, abide by the violence. I don't want to see. I don't want to see people commit violence. I don't want to see people look for trouble. Antifa does that. Don't be like Antifa. And of course, defend yourself. But, I would predict that most of this was probably Antifa's fault anyway, because that's what they do. They egg people on. But let's see a little bit of this video. Looks like they're outnumbered. Oh my God! Wow, there's a lot of violence going on here. No, I don't like to see this. Trump supporters, man. I mean, look. Yeah, sure. Drive them out. Tell them to get lost. But don't get a guy on the ground and beat him with an American flag. I can't support that. I can't support that. I don't like these Antifa guys. I think they're a-holes. Granted, I may not be seeing the whole video here. These guys may have been attacked and they're just, fighting back. But, try not to fight, guys. Try not to let these guys, and there's more videos here. Olympa, hella spicy and well-dressed AR dude posted up. What does that mean? I assume he's got a gun? Yeah, see, I don't know what's going on there. Yeah, this is not into these street brawls. And look, these Antifa guys, they're a-holes. They're absolute a-holes. I don't think they should be there. They're there to antagonize people. Antifa morons. These people just want to have a protest. Stop antagonizing them. I don't have any sympathy for the Antifa guys getting beat up. But, again, I wouldn't encourage this behavior. Yeah, I mean, these guys, they're all dressed in black. They've got all kinds of weapons and armor and stuff. Yeah, I get it. You're having a march. Yeah, it's bad. I hate to see that. But, I do compliment the Patriots for going out and marching at all, when you're faced with this opposition. I just hope you're trying to show as much restraint as possible. And I'm not accusing anyone of anything, okay? These Antifa guys, they're a-holes. But try not to be egged on by them as best you can. Michigan Board of Elections orders county clerks to delete vote data. I don't know how they can get away with this. If it's going to happen, Michigan Republican legislative leaders were not happy on Friday when they learned the Board of Elections ordered county clerks to delete election-related data from government computers. This right here, Democrats, this act right here is why you will have people side with Trump regardless. You've just basically told people we stole Michigan and we're not going to let you prove it. So, okay. I mean, you're going to play that dirty. When the gloves come off, you'll have no one to blame but yourselves. When Trump takes it from you anyway, I'll have no sympathy for the Democrats in Michigan, that's for sure. And I would like to see these people arrested. I hope Trump gets in and does the most massive investigation of an election that's ever been done. And I hope the Board of Elections, I hope the entire Board of Elections goes to prison in Michigan. Prison. Not jail. Prison. So, I don't know how this could be done. I don't know why a judge couldn't stop this. It's an outrage. It's an outrage that it happens. And I'll tell you this, Michigan, you better get these guys in line. You better see to it that in the future, and maybe Trump will fix this if he gets in, but in the future, this cannot be allowed to happen. What these people are doing, criminal. Criminal. This is criminal. This is the destruction of evidence, and this is what people go to prison for. I hope they come back and prove it. It's just, it just disgusts me. And finally, President of Texas A&M. Students for Trump group required to attend re-education camp. Now this is WND, so it's probably hyperbolic, but the president of the Students for Trump at Texas A&M University received a letter from the Student Conduct Office requesting a meeting after he and other club members placed pro-Trump signs on public property. If he does not attend the meeting, he could face the student conduct charges. Texas A&M Junior and Students for Trump President Dion Okiki told Campus Reform about the events that led up to the letter he received from the Student Conduct Office. And we'll read the full story over at Campus Reform. And we can't, because the article has not. Damn it. Oh well. I think it's probably a little bit of a hyperbolic, but you know, this is typical college stuff. I mean, look, just because students support Trump, you have no standing to harass them. Okay, putting up pro-Trump signs, I mean, they're just supporting the president. It's no big deal. Ignore it. It goes away in a few weeks. Either way, whether Trump wins or doesn't win, you're just making these guys martyrs to the cause. That's all you're making them, and they'll probably end up suing the school for having their, I don't know, civil rights violated. So, I think re-education camp is a little hyperbolic. A little hyperbolic. No, they're probably facing some sort of conduct charge because they basically ruffled some feathers, and now they've found some sort of minor rule that they can charge them on because they put signs on public property. Probably has nothing to do with Trump per se in the rule, but this is them harassing Trump supporters. Because that's the trend, right? Harassing Trump supporters. Trump supporters, I still am confident Trump is going to win. When he does, I say try to be classy about it. Try to say to yourself, I'm not going to take revenge on the people who mocked me and did, you know, you got to turn the other cheek. Turn the other cheek. Some guy said that. And we have to be classier than the other side and show them true sportsmanship. You know, when we win this, we got to shake their hand and say, "Hey, you fought a good game." A lot of your side's going to prison, but you pulled out all the stops.